Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're really getting into something fascinating inside our own bodies, mitochondria.
That's right. These tiny things, often called power plants, are crucial.
Exactly. They keep everything running, and if they're not, well, happy, it really impacts our health. We've looked at a bunch of sources today.
Yeah, covering everything from how they work to how dysfunction is linked to diseases like cancer, diabetes,
And importantly, what we might be able to do about it. So our mission today is to pull out some, actionable stuff on boosting mitochondrial health.
and really understanding why it matters so much for preventing disease down the line.
Okay, so let's get straight to it. What exactly are these mitochondria? Why all the fuss?
Well, fundamentally, their main job, the one everyone knows, is taking energy from food, nutrients,
Right.
and converting that into the energy currency of the cell, which is ATP. It's cellular respiration,
The
basically.
power plant analogy.
Exactly. But it's becoming clear they do way more than just that. They're involved in, well, a whole host of other cellular processes, signaling, growth, even cell death.
Wow. Okay, so they're not just energy factories. They're like little managers too. Busy little things.
You could say that. Very busy.
So what happens then when these crucial little guys start having problems? That's where the health issues come in, presumably.
Absolutely. It's increasingly clear that mitochondrial dysfunction, when they're not working properly, is a really significant factor in many common diseases.
Which ones are we talking about?
The sources we looked at specifically mentioned type 2 diabetes, cardiovascular disease, metabolic syndrome, even cancer and Alzheimer's disease.
That's a serious list. How can these tiny structures going wrong actually contribute to such different conditions? Is there a common thread?
Yeah, it's interesting. The how can vary. Sometimes it's mutations in the mitochondria's own DNA.
They have their own DNA.
They do. Or it could be defects in the enzymes they need.
Yeah.
Or they might start producing too many reactive oxygen species, ROS. Those are sort of like damaging byproducts.
Ah, I've heard of ROS, free radicals, and oxidative stress.
Exactly that kind of thing. And sometimes it's even related to changes in genes that normally control cell growth, the oncogenes or tumor suppressors.
Okay.
But fundamentally, when mitochondria struggle, two main things happen. Cells don't get enough energy because ATP production drops.
Makes sense.
And you often get that increase in damaging ROS, which messes things up even further.
And I remember reading something about cancer. It's like a two-way street.
That's a really key point from the research. It seems to work both ways. On one hand, if mitochondria are damaged, they can make cells resistant to apoptosis.
Apoptosis.
Hmm.
Programmed cell death, right? The body's way of getting rid of bad cells.
Exactly. So dysfunctional mitochondria can actually help cancer cells survive when they should be dying off.
Wow.
But on the other hand, some cancer-promoted genes, oncogenes, might actually cause mitochondrial damage in the first place. So they create this environment that helps the cancer grow.
A vicious cycle then. So what causes this dysfunction to happen? What makes them go wrong?
Well, several things are mentioned. We talked about the DNA mutations.
Right.
Infections can sometimes play a role. Aging is a big one. Mitochondrial function tends to decline as we get older, unfortunately.
Yeah, tell me about it.
And a really important one, because we can potentially influence it, is lack of physical activity, being sedentary.
Ah, yes. The modern condition. So not moving enough. What does that specifically do to our mitochondria? It's not just about weight, is it?
Not at all.
Okay.
The evidence is pretty stark, actually. Studies looking at athletes who detrain, or even just healthy people put on bed rest for a while.
Yeah.
They show significant drops in mitochondrial function. The enzymes they use become less active. The genes related to building new mitochondria get turned down.
Really? Even from just bed rest?
Oh, yeah. One study found just over a week of bed rest altered thousands of genes, and mitochondrial pathways were hit really hard.
Wow. That's quite something.
But the good news is, when people start moving again, a lot of that function can be regained. It really highlights how important activity is.
Okay, that's a powerful motivator. Let's shift gears then. What can we do naturally? What helps mitochondria work better?
So our sources highlight a few interesting natural approaches. One that gets a lot of buzz is the ketogenic diet.
Right, keto. High fat, super low carb. How does that affect these powerhouses?
Well, the theory is by cutting carbs drastically, you force your body to switch fuel sources away from glucose towards burning fat.
Okay.
And this process creates ketone bodies. Mitochondria can use these ketones directly for ATP production.
Ah, an alternative fuel.
Exactly. And some research suggests this metabolic shift might actually improve mitochondrial function. It seems to activate certain pathways. PGC1 alpha, which helps build more mitochondria, and things like SIRT1, SIRT3, AMPK.
Okay, those sound technical but important.
They are. They basically help make energy production more efficient. There was a mouse study where keto actually slowed down a mitochondrial muscle disease, partly by boosting mitochondrial numbers.
Interesting, but that was mice.
That's the key caveat. Promising, but we definitely need more good human studies to really confirm these benefits for mitochondria specifically.
Got it. Keto potential needs more human data. What else? I think I saw cold exposure mentioned. Brr.
Yes. Cold exposure. It sounds uncomfortable, but the idea is that when you get cold, your body works to generate heat.
Shivering, right.
Shivering in muscles, yes, but also something called non-shivering thermogenesis in brown fat tissue.
Brown fat, the good fat.
Kind of, yeah. And both these heat-generating processes actually ramp up mitochondrial activity. They make the mitochondria work harder and can even trigger the creation of new ones in those tissues.
So making yourself cold makes your mitochondria work harder to warm you up.
Essentially, yes. Again, studies in rats have shown this in liver and muscle. Human data is still developing.
Okay, so maybe there's something to those ice baths after all. What about the opposite? Heat, like saunas.
Right. Heat exposure, like using a sauna, seems to act as a kind of mild stress. But a good stress, like exercise.
Hormetic effect.
Exactly. This mild stress triggers adaptations in the mitochondria, making them more robust and functional. This has been shown in skeletal muscle and even heart muscle.
And that fits with studies showing sauna benefits for endurance and heart health, doesn't it?
It does seem to line up quite well. It suggests the mitochondrial improvements might be part of why saunas can be beneficial.
Fascinating. So hot and cold. Carefully applied stress seems good for mitochondria. Now, something maybe less stressful, sleep. How important is sleep for them?
Oh, hugely important.
Yeah.
Especially for the brain. Our brains produce a lot of metabolic waste while they're working hard all day.
Makes sense.
During sleep, the brain has this amazing cleaning system that clears out these waste products. Some of them, like beta amyloid, which is linked to Alzheimer's, can actually be toxic to mitochondria if they build up. So good quality sleep is basically essential for keeping your brain's mitochondria healthy and functioning well.
Okay, brain drain cleanup crew needs sleep to work. Got it. What about just relaxing?
Yeah.
Stress management.
Definitely plays a role. Psychological stress,
Yep.
Chronic stress releases stress hormones like cortisol,
Right.
and these can directly damage mitochondrial structure and function. Over time, this chronic stress can lead to mitochondrial issues affecting your nervous system, your endocrine system, your immune system.
So chilling out is good for your mitochondria.
In essence, yes. Anything that helps manage chronic stress indirectly supports them.
And the last natural one mentioned was red light therapy, near infrared light. Sounds a bit sci-fi.
It does sound a bit out there, but there's growing research. The idea is that specific wavelengths of red and near-infrared light can be absorbed by components within the mitochondria.
Like they react to the light?
Sort of. It seems to influence mitochondrial signaling, maybe boost antioxidant defenses, and just generally improve how cells function. Some studies suggest benefits for things like wound healing and muscle recovery.
How exactly?
The precise mechanisms are still being worked out, but it seems related to improving energy production and reducing oxidative stress at the mitochondrial level.
Intriguing. Okay, let's move into supplements. Now, this section came with some big warnings in our sources, right?
Absolutely critical to emphasize this. The information on supplements is purely informational. It's not medical advice.
Right.
These substances aren't regulated like drugs. Their effectiveness, their safety, it hasn't been proven in large-scale human trials for the most part.
So talk to your doctor first, definitely.
Always. And never use them to replace proper medical treatment. That's vital.
Okay, disclaimer firmly in place. What supplements showed some potential in, say, early studies or animal models for mitochondrial support?
All right. One mention was oxaloacetate. It's part of the Krebs cycle, which is central to energy production.
Right, back to biology class.
Yes. A mouse study showed giving it increased mitochondria numbers in brain cells, apparently by boosting proteins needed for making and running mitochondria.
Okay. Mice, brain cells, what else?
Leucine, which is an amino acid, a building block of protein. Cell studies suggested it could increase mitochondrial density and function in muscle cells.
In cell cultures?
Yes, in vitro work. Then there's niacinamide. That's a form of vitamin B3.
Okay.
It's a precursor to NAD plus Hebio, which is really important for energy metabolism. Rat brain studies suggested it helped prevent energy depletion.
NAD plus is a big topic these days, isn't it? Anti-aging and all that.
It is. And niacinamide might also help with mitochondrial quality. Some human cell work suggests it helps clear out dysfunctional mitochondria through autophagy. So maybe fewer, but healthier mitochondria.
Interesting. Quality control.
Then there's PQQ, paraliquinolane quinone, found in some foods. Mouse studies indicated it might increase both mitochondrial function and number by increasing mitochondrial DNA.
More mice. Okay. Any others linked to NAD plus hope?
Yes, nicotinamide riboside, or NR. That's another NAD plus precursor. Mouse studies showed it boosted NAD plus levels and spurred mitochondrial generation in muscle and fat.
So making more mitochondria.
Right. And it also seemed to help maintain the integrity of mitochondrial DNA and structure, which could be relevant for certain muscle diseases linked to mitochondria.
And any human data on NR?
Some studies in human and mouse tissues showed it increased NAD plus and activated SRT1, that protein we mentioned earlier, leading to potential improvements in energy and protection against age-related issues. But again, large clinical trials are still needed to confirm widespread benefits.
Still early days, it sounds like. What else was on that supplement list?
Alpha-lipoic acid, ALA. Mouse studies suggested it prevented mitochondrial problems caused by hypothermia, oddly enough.
Cold stress again.
And in rats, it seemed to reduce mitochondrial DNA damage, boost antioxidant activity, increase mitochondrial numbers, and improve function, partly through activating SIRT1 and RT3.
Okay, and berberine. I think that's used in traditional medicine.
It is, in Chinese medicine. It's thought to affect mitochondria directly, but, and this is a really important but,
No.
high doses can actually be toxic and cause mitochondrial dysfunction. It can accumulate inside them. So definitely not a more is better situation.
Right. Caution needed there. What about inosine?
Inosine is a precursor for adenosine involved in protein production. Our brain cell studies suggested it might delay cell death by boosting ATP production.
Cell study again.
Yep. Then C60, or fullerene, described as very experimental, not much research. Some early hints it might reduce free radical effects and help the electron transport chain, but really limited data.
Okay, C60 sounds like one to watch from a distance for now. ALCAR. Acetyl L-carnitine.
Yes, ALCR. Preclinical studies suggest several potential benefits: protecting against oxidative stress, reducing cell death, increasing mitochondrial biogenesis that's making new ones, and improving mitochondrial protein content.
Any specific?
Mouse kidney studies showed it increased ATS-RT3 and protected against injury. Rat studies showed increased mitochondrial generation. And in mice with fatty liver disease, ALCR combined with lipoic acid actually reversed some mitochondrial issues.
Combination therapy there. Interesting. What about curcumin from turmeric?
Curcumin has shown a lot of promise in cell studies, activating AMPK, protecting against oxidative damage, preventing cell death, increasing mitochondrial number and efficiency.
Sounds great.
But these effects haven't really been properly explored in animal models or humans yet for mitochondria specifically. So potential in a petri dish, but we need to see if it translates.
Okay. Lots of potential and maybes in the supplement world. Finally, methylene blue. That rings a bell.
Yeah, it's a bit complex. Some people think low doses act as a brain antioxidant and maybe help the electron transport chain if it's struggling, like an artificial electron donor.
What?
But the sources say there isn't strong evidence for that yet. And crucially, high concentrations are bad. They promote oxidative stress and can mess up the electron transport chain.
So dose is critical, and the benefit is uncertain.
Seems to be the case. The theory for low doses involves it interacting with oxygen to mop up damaging radicals. Some rat studies showed it might speed up mitophagy clearing damaged mitochondria and reduce issues in pancreatitis or from amyloid beta, but again, mostly animal data in theory.
Right. So the big takeaway on supplements is proceed with extreme caution, talk to your doctor, don't expect miracles, and prioritize proven lifestyle factors.
That sums it up perfectly. Which brings us nicely to those fundamentals. Diet, for instance. How crucial is just eating well?
It seems absolutely foundational, doesn't it? Every expert seems to agree. Start with whole, unprocessed, nutrient-dense foods.
Exactly. You can't expect your mitochondria to work well if you're feeding them, well, junk. Ultra-processed foods are notoriously poor nutritionally and linked to so many health problems.
Giving them the right building blocks and fuel.
Precisely. Providing the micronutrients they need, and also recognizing that individuals respond differently. Monitoring things like your insulin response, blood pressure, that can help tailor your diet.
Personalized nutrition.
Yeah, but even just the simple step of cutting out the ultra-processed stuff can make a huge difference for many people.
Makes total sense. Can't run a high-performance engine on low-grade fuel. And the other huge fundamental we kept circling back to, physical activity.
Oh, absolutely paramount. It's not just good for you, it's like a core requirement for human biology. And it's probably the most powerful stimulus we have for improving and maintaining mitochondrial function.
More powerful than supplements or fancy diets.
In terms of robust evidence and broad effects, almost certainly. Regular exercise improves cardiorespiratory fitness, muscle strength, reduces fatigue, improves sleep, even in people with serious conditions like cancer.
And the cancer link itself. Exercise reduces risk, right?
Yes, there's solid evidence linking physical activity to lower risk for several cancers, colorectal, breast, endometrial, and others. A lot of that seems to be mediated through positive effects on the immune system and reducing chronic inflammation, which supports mitochondrial health, too.
It's all connected.
It really is. Think of it as building mitochondrial fitness. Healthy, fit mitochondria are better at preventing errors during replication and regulating that crucial cell death process, apoptosis.
So exercise helps keep the whole system running cleanly.
You got it. It's key for what some call metabolic rehabilitation in chronic disease. We could even learn from how elite athletes train to optimize mitochondrial function.
Fascinating. And one last term related to keeping things clean. Mitophagy. What's that about?
Right, mitophagy. It's basically the cell's internal recycling program, specifically for mitochondria.
Taking out the trash.
Exactly. It removes damaged or dysfunctional mitochondria. It's a critical quality control process to keep the overall pool of mitochondria healthy and efficient.
And does exercise affect that?
Yes. Exercise is actually known to promote mitophagy. It helps clear out the old, less efficient ones, making space for new, healthy mitochondria generated through biogenesis.
So exercise helps build new ones and clear out the old ones.
That seems to be the case. It's a double benefit. And problems with mitophagy, when this cleanup system isn't working well, are linked to aging and metabolic diseases like fatty liver disease.
Balance is key then. Making new ones, cleaning out old ones.
Precisely. It's about maintaining a healthy, dynamic population of mitochondria.
Wow. Okay, this has been incredibly insightful. A real deep dive into these tiny powerhouses.
They're small but mighty.
Definitely. So to quickly recap, mitochondria are central to energy, yes, but also so much more. Dysfunction is linked to major diseases.
But the encouraging part is we can influence their health.
Right. Prioritizing real food, being very cautious and informed about supplements, always with the doctor's input, and crucially, making regular physical activity non-negotiable. These seem like the core pillars.
Absolutely. Focusing on those lifestyle foundations is the most evidence-based way to support your mitochondrial health and, by extension, your overall long-term health and resilience.
So here's a final thought to leave you with. Knowing how profoundly these tiny organelles impact almost everything, what's one small, manageable change you could make starting today to give your mitochondria a little extra support? Maybe it's adding a walk, cutting out that processed snack, or perhaps having that conversation with your doctor about optimizing your cellular health. Thanks for joining us.